I want y'all to listen up because I have something to tell you. I once knew a man that at one point hadn't said how he actually felt in so long that he genuinely didn't know anymore. I mean, hand to God, if you were to ask this particular man with all honesty, was there anything wrong with him? He would look you square in your face and say, no. And personally, I believe the reason that he would answer in such a way is because, in my opinion, he had sealed his feelings up about certain things so tight that he managed to lock himself out. Now, here's the issue that arises when something like that occurs. As a man and as men, we begin to unconsciously become proud of that action. I mean, seriously, we throw a party for it and then invite some guests to attend that will socialize with our unconsciousness about that action. Guests that I would like to say, in my opinion, would enhance the experience, sort of speak. Guests that makes us as men believe that sealed feelings equal strength, that not allowing things or portraying not to allow things to get to us equals strength. Ultimately, what we do is build an armor so complete and so seamless that it takes on a personality that we are more than willing to accept. And as a man myself, trust me, I get it. I understand completely. However, I think when we take that action on, there's one thing that we never consider or take into consideration, fellas. I like that better. And that one consideration that we never take seriously is the woman who loves and adores us, right? So here's the thing about that woman who loves and adores us. What she does is she unconsciously and continuously knock on the door of our thoughts and feelings, trying to get an answer. Because she knows deep down inside somewhere that they exist, because at one point or another, we shared it with her. So what she does is she asks questions, she digs, she reaches, and then all of a sudden, one day, she just stopped knocking. Now, as men, what we do is we take that stoppage and we never really think about why it stopped. In fact, we think the stoppage is now peace. That's what we believe, that it has now become peace. But tonight, I'm going to prove otherwise. Tonight, I'm going to tell you why letting them tell us that never letting her see weak was letting her see, us weak was one of the biggest mistakes we could have made in our relationship. I'm going to say that keeping things sealed up is what they told us a man does. And I'm going to be real with you. That action was never strength. It was a hiding place. And it was a hiding place with a really good marketing team behind it, if I must say so myself. And I know that because I'm one man that has lived inside that armor longer than I would love to admit. Let's talk about it. Beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of This Could Get Ugly. Of course, I am your host, Mr. Shaun D. Upshaw. And as always, I'm very appreciative of you joining me for another episode in the new arc that we are uncovering, which is what the internet has lied to us about being a man. Yes, this is the third episode. And tonight's topic is why they told us to never let her see us weak. Yeah, gentlemen, I'm going to dedicate, like I did in the first episode, this entire arc to us because you know where I stand, right? I believe we are the head, and we have to get ourselves together mentally before anything goes forward and becomes everything that we desired for it to become. But before we dive into this specific topic on tonight, I encourage people to go over to our YouTube page, www.youtube.com /@tcgu.podcast. I ask that you like the page, subscribe to the channel, and like everything that's already on there so that we can get these videos in the algorithm. We need to get this knowledge out there, ladies and gentlemen. I know everyone won't agree with me, but at least we can put it in front of them for, maybe a discussion. A discussion. Maybe you will allow me at the dinner table. Maybe I can get some of my thoughts out there, and maybe we can change some things, right? Because that's exactly what we need. We need to change some things. So again, for those who just joining us, we are in, this is your first episode. We in episode 3 of this new arc, where I basically debunked everything the internet has lied to us about being a man, right? So I want to tear that down. I wanted to dive into that because a lot of us is walking around confused, and I don't want us confused because it's ugly when we confuse, right? So the first episode, if you're not aware, we did the whole alpha costume. We talked about alpha males. The last episode, we did the wallet, right? About how provision, how we get that title. That's the only title we get. You need to check that one out. That was a pretty good one, I must say so to myself. But today we're going after the one thing that's underneath both the costume and the wallet, right? And that is the armor, the lie that says a real man never lets her, see him weak. This, in my opinion, is the keystone, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason I say that is because this one is the one that everything is built on top of. That's right. I believe that this is the one that everything is built on top of. So let's get into it, right? Let's discuss the first thing, which I believe is the armor lie. We as men, we put on this armor, and we never want anybody to penetrate this armor, right? Because it protects us. But in reality, I believe it's a lie, and I'm gonna break down why I believe it's a lie, right? So I want to start by showing you the exact mechanism of this lie, right? Because in my opinion, I believe it's sneaky. It takes something real, and what it takes is emotional control, which is valuable, and it corrupts it. And it turns it into something very poisonous, which I believe is emotional absence. And they make that a strength. We're not doing that. So those two things could not be more different. And let me explain why. Control means you feel something. And you choose what to do with it. The feeling's there, you're just steering it. On the other hand, absence means you cut the wire. You don't feel it at all anymore. And the lie sells you more on the second one. The armor, the lie, sells you more on the second one than the first one, right? The cut the wire. Because, I think that if they tell us to cut the wire, we never get to the bottom of anything. And that's what people want. They want confusion because a lot of people want to control the narrative of relationships, especially our relationships, right? They want to take away the very freedom that I believe was our God-given right, which is to be creative in relationships and do them in our way as long as the one goal is accomplished. So what I believe is they sell us the lie of the second one. And it's so easy to sell it because it's dressed up in the first one's clothes, And the most important thing that I think a lot of men, a lot of us do not realize about that second one, that lie is it gives us a numbness that I don't believe we are aware of. And we tend to take that numbness and call it something else, discipline. And it's not that. Now, see, when we call it discipline, I want you to understand that that's a slippery slope, because I believe that no man chooses this on purpose. No, I believe that it creeps up in us. Excuse me. And the reason I say that is because first, I believe you learn to hide weakness in moments that actually call for it, right? Whether it's a job interview, a crisis, the moment your family needs you to be the steady one in the room. And I believe that's healthy, right? I really do. That's a skill. That's appropriate. But here's the thing. We take that and then we generalize it, right? We start hiding it in most moments, and then eventually we take it into all moments. And then one day we reach for that one thing when we're alone, the one opportunity to be vulnerable. And we want to feel something. Hell, sometimes we might even want to cry. I'm not going to front to you. But we can't. And we can't because when someone is struggling with their words and they won't come out in his just, tears won't come out for us. We can't be vulnerable with ourselves. Like I said, that numbness is blocking everything. We can't find it. We can't find what we're looking for in order to emotionally get over this particular problem that we're going through. And me personally, I believe that us as men, we have to understand that although they tell us we're not supposed to be emotional in situations, I'm here to tell you as a man, a 6'5", 245-pound man, that it's okay to have emotions. What we can't do is allow emotions to control us. It's okay to have emotions. We just can't allow emotions to control us. I think that's the thing we have to take into consideration, right? Because the skill of armoring up for the right moment became an armor that we can't take off in any moment now. And that's the problem. That's where it gets ugly. Because in my opinion, you didn't get strong by putting that armor on, What you actually did was you got sealed. And it's no good for anybody when a man gets sealed. Because like I said, emotional control means you feel it and you choose. Emotional absence means you cut the wire altogether. And I want you to take that with you. I want you to let it sit here. I want you to analyze it here. I want you to evaluate it here. Because eventually we're going to have to come to a point where we realize that that's a bunch of bullshit. Because we have to transfer it from here, and we got to put it in here, in our heart. And once we get it in our heart, then we can make the right actions as men when it comes to being the head of our relationships, our marriages, hell, us, personal development. Just being honest. Do not take the emotions out of things. Do not take it's a release. It's a release that we need. Now, if I was talking to women, I guarantee they'd be in here like, oh my God, yes, this is what we, no, fellas, I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us. We need that emotional release just like we need anything else. I'm going to stand on it. I argue with anybody about it. I feel strong about it because when you're able to have an equal balance of releasing your emotions, then I believe you can make better decisions. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about certain things. There's nothing wrong with, feeling a certain way. Like I said, as long as it's not controlling you. It's needed. It's needed in everyday walks. It's needed in our relationships. It's needed in our marriages. Keep that in mind. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell you what continuously having this armor on costs you. Now, I've written down 4 things that it costs you. I want you to really hear me out because this is expensive. I will say this is expensive. Now let me show you the bill because like I said, it's expensive. The armor feels free. It definitely feels free. It feels like it's even protecting you right up until you see what has been quietly charging you the entire time. Like I said, it comes with 4 costs. The first cost, as I said, she stopped reaching. Remember I said in the open that eventually she stops knocking? I need you to let that sit in. Because I know personally that a woman will knock and knock on that armor for years. She'll ask you what's wrong. And as I said, she'll dig for the real you because she knows it exists inside of you. You've shown her that it exists inside of you. And she'll try everything. She'll try every door, so to speak. But knocking on steel, I believe, or that numbness eventually gets exhausting. Yeah, it gets exhausting. Knuckles start to bleed. And one day, like I said, she just stops. She just stops. And here's the cruelest part about, like I said, that stoppage. The man usually feels like it's relief because that numbness tells him that, oh, she tripping. She nagging. She's always digging. She's always asking questions. I don't need these questions. And the reason we feel that way is because the knocking is uncomfortable. I know, fellas, it's uncomfortable. You don't want nobody probing in the business. I get it. You want to keep stuff to yourself. I get it. But it all boils down to it's uncomfortable. Because one thing we don't realize is that knocking or that continuous knock by her is actually love. It's not nagging. It's love. And what happens is when we stop, believing that it's love that continuously pushes her to find out what's wrong, I believe we lose sight of it all. I believe we lose sight of it all. And you have to know if you're in a relationship tonight, fellas, and your woman has been knocking and knocking and knocking, and she stopped knocking, and all of a sudden you be like, oh, good, she ain't asking me no more. I'm going to be real with you. She's halfway gone, brother. She's halfway gone. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I said she's halfway gone. You can change. You can change it tonight. You can turn it all around. Just got to let her in. That's the thing, though. Let's talk about that second cost. You can't receive comfort. What I mean by that is even when you're drowning, even when you need it the most, if you don't fix it, you won't let her in to help. Because letting her in means she'll see the weakness. So what happens is you don't want her to see the weakness, and in turn, you suffer alone right next to a person who would have carried that very burden that you don't want to talk about. She would have carried it with you. Now, when I tell you all these things, right, especially in the cost too, I'm talking to the men who are actually with a real one. Fellas, I know. I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, man, all women are great. I know it's a lot of women out here that are not real ones. I know it's a lot of men out here that are not real ones. Trust me, I get it. I'm talking about the people who actually want to be in relationships, in marriages, who are real. I'm talking about the real ones, fellas. These are the ones I'm talking about. So don't think I'm talking about all women. I'm talking about, and you know, fellas, that when you got a real one, you know. I don't believe we're stupid at all by a long shot. You know when you have a good woman. So that's who I'm referring this message to specifically. And if I'm talking to you tonight, I need you to hear to that because like I said, she halfway gone, brother. I'm trying to help you out here. So like I said, she would have carried that burden with you only if you allow her to help. And you tell yourself the reason I don't want to tell her is because I'm protecting her. I'm protecting her from the burden. My brother, let's stop lying to each other. You're not protecting her. Not protecting her at all. What you're doing is protecting that armor, protecting that numbness. Can we be real about that? Are you willing to be real about that? Let's go to cost 3. In cost 3, when I was writing this one, I feel this is the most detrimental one. Now, it might not apply to every man, but it applies to a majority because this specific one we do have. The third cost, your kids learn it. Now, here's the thing. If you got children, fellas, especially sons, they are watching you right now. Hell, they might even be watching you, watching me. To be honest with you, they're watching you to see how you reacting. And if you are falling victim to what I'm talking about tonight, I want you to understand that you are not teaching them strength in any way by acting the way that you're acting. What you're actually teaching them is the exact same seal that got installed in you. Now, if you can look in the mirror and you're comfortable with where you are in life as far as how you interact with your woman, her not really knowing the emotional side of you, and you cool with that, by all means, I'll lay off. But if deep down inside you know that you're not cool with that, I want you to really think about what you're passing on to your son if you don't correct this. And daughters. Let's not forget about daughters. I'm a girl dad, because what we pass along to our daughters is her selecting a man just like us, which we don't want if we're not in the right mindset, right? But like I said, you're not teaching him strength. You're teaching him the same seal that got installed in you. What you're doing is building the next generation. You're building the next generation's wall in real time in your own living room. And what you're calling it is raising a man, when in fact you're keeping him a boy throughout his whole life. Let's be real about that. The fourth cost, the feelings don't leave, they leak. This is the one nobody warned you about, because, sealed emotion doesn't disappear, no matter what we believe, fellas. If we seal our emotions, they don't just up and move out. We don't just evict them. And they're going to be willing tenants ready to leave. What happens is, I believe it has to go somewhere. So it comes out sideways. And what I mean by it comes out sideways is you start to get a temper over nothing. It comes out in that third drink. Excuse me, bottoms. That was a perfect opportunity to plug a little whiskey. But no, it comes out in that third drink. It comes out working to midnight, so you don't have to come home and be present. Just numbness, rage in traffic that has nothing to do with traffic. You didn't master this feeling, is what I'm trying to tell you. You just lost the ability to choose how it gets out. So now it picks its own door, and is usually an ugly one if you don't get a tang of this thing. Fellas, listen, I know some of us don't really want to hear this. Trust me. I know you want me to get on here and do what other podcasters are doing, which is go at women. Maybe get involved in the gender war of saying what men should be doing, what women should be doing. But I want you to understand that this could get ugly is about addressing the mental of this. That's why I can get ugly, because I'm basically trying to go against everything that we've been taught and that we believe, based on what we've seen, makes a relationship work, helps our personal development, gives us a long-lasting marriage. In most cases, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. But we don't want to accept it because I tell you why. In your mind, you believe it's working because your woman hasn't said anything. But just because she's sitting there and haven't said anything, like I said, doesn't mean she's not halfway gone. Women are patient when it comes to leaving. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Women are patient when it comes to leaving. You can be sitting there with your woman and she can be devising a whole plan on how to get out of that situation if you're not properly feeding her with the emotions that help her and help you grow in that situation, that relationship, that marriage. Understand this, fellas. Emotions is not about hard or soft. And I say that because here's where I'm going to surprise you. Because I know based on everything I've given you up to this point, you think you know where I'm headed. I guarantee it's somebody out there in the the YouTube university or the Facebook university streaming university that believes they know where I'm about to go with this. You think I'm about to tell you that the hardness is bad and that the softness is good and that real men cry, right? You think I'm about to say that and all that good stuff. But well, I'm not. No, that's not what I'm about to do. Because to be honest with you, if I tell you that, they're just flipping the costume inside out. I want you to understand that there's a variable here. It never was about hard versus soft. The variable is, and it always has been, can you choose, fellas? Can you choose? Because, see, I believe a strong man can be hard when the moment demands hard. And he can be soft when the moment demands soft. That's what I believe. And I'll repeat it. I believe a strong man can be hard when the moment demands hard. And I believe he can be soft when the moment demands soft. Now, he's got the whole range available in him. That's what I believe. A man that is sure and confident in his abilities has the whole range available to him. And what happens is he selects across it based on what's actually needed in that particular moment. A man who is merely hard, one gear all the time, he's not strong. Stop believing that. Not strong by a long shot. I think he's stuck. We had a running joke back in our hood, like people just always angry. And like, damn, dog, you beefing over bacon? Like this early in the morning? You that upset? You this tough? No, this is real talk. You can't be this angry all the time. You can't be this hard all the time. Like, dude, what are we doing right now? We need to get out of being stuck. Because see, the hardness isn't a choice that he's making in the moment. It's really the only setting that he's been given in life. The only setting that he has learned, that he has mastered. And I believe, like I said, that one setting is not a strength. That one setting is actually a limitation. But here's the thing. Like I told you in the beginning, when we do an action for so long, we begin to name it something that is not. And what we do is we take that limitation and consider it a virtue. Think about it like this. The man who can sit with his crying wife or his crying girlfriend or whatever title you have for her and actually feel it with her, stay in it, not rush to fix it. That's the key thing with us, fellas. We always want to fix something. We never want to listen. And not fix it, not flee the room. That's not a weak man. I believe the man that can sit there and deal with that emotion. If your girl was crying, if your wife was crying, if your boo or whatever you want to call her was crying, and you're sitting there in it with her, not trying to fix it, just open ears, listening, you're not weak. I don't give a damn what nobody tells you. You're not weak. Because, see, I believe that it takes more strength than just going stone face about a situation like that. It takes more strength to sit there and listen than going stone face about it. Because going stone face is really the easiest thing to do as a man. It's exactly what we do. But staying open with every cell in your body is what we need to do. Staying open is the key. And that's the hard thing. So let me put it plain as I can. And I'm going to repeat this throughout the entire show, so you might as well get used to it. The armor was never strength. The armor was never strength. See, the strength is the ability to take it off. To choose to be soft on purpose with the right person. Emphasis on the right person. Like I said, this show is about men being soft with real ones. Ones that's not going to weaponize your emotions, fellas. Ones that's not going to take that and use it against you later. There's a clip. I watch a show called, God damn it, what's the name of that show with Sterling K. Brown? This Is All of Us, or This Is Us, or whatever the case may be. It's a clip floating around online where he was basically saying, he told his wife, you could have went back and, in the dancing anytime you want. And her rebuttal was, when? When could I do that? In between what panic attack? Took that man weakness, threw it up in his face, or what he deemed as a weakness, and threw it up in his face. And you can see the life just going out of that man in that relationship in that moment. Now, of course, I know this television is scripted, but this happens in everyday homes, which is what leads to men being scared to express themselves, ladies. It's just going to be real with you. If you have a man that's willing to express himself, don't weaponize it. Don't use it for later. Hear that man out. He's trying to explain something to you. Hear him out. Those are the 4 things that I believe you need to work on. Now, I gave you everything up to this point that I believe happens in relationship, but I have to give you the setup, right? How we even received the armor, where it even came from. And if you were here when we had the family roots arc, you probably already know where I'm going with this, right? Here's where I want you to take the weight off of you for a second, fellas, because nobody chooses the armor freely. In my opinion, it got forged onto you piece by piece, mostly before you were even old enough to say no. Now, if you don't believe me, I'm going to give you a few things to think about that's going to back up my point. Have you ever heard this growing up, fellas? Boys don't cry. Man up. Stop being soft. Walk it off. Suck it up. Every single one of those was a hammer strike. Forging another plate of the armor onto a kid. Now picture this, because we all been here. How many of us, by show of hands, I raise my hand over here, bam, have been outside, fell, scraped our knee, opens up, it's bleeding, and we looking for comfort, so we run to our father or our uncle or someone in authority that's a man, and that man turn around and say, toughen up. Now, I'm not opposed to him saying toughen up, but fellas, when you say toughen up, I want you to know what you're saying to that kid. Because, see, I didn't realize what I was saying or what I was getting as a kid until I was old enough to process my thoughts thoroughly and realize it. What happens is he learns the lesson in the body and not the head, right? He learns that showing pain gets him shamed. Hiding it gets him approved. Showing pain is dangerous. Hiding it is safe. Because I can remember coming up as a youngster, and if I had I'm gonna call it this, but if I had a little boo boo and I didn't show no fear, no pain, no nothing, I just got up and just did what I have to do, then I got that nod of approval. Yeah. Not realizing what was going to happen to me when I grew up to be a man and how I was going to hide that pain in my relationships, in my marriages. Now, a lot of you are going to believe it's not that deep, but I'm telling you, it is. Once you get accustomed to doing something for so long, you just do it. You don't even think about it. You just do it. And it never comes out in front of you. It comes out in the situations that you are involved in. So now run that lesson. I want you to run that lesson that I just gave you about the scrape or the boo-boo. I want you to run it 10,000 times across your entire childhood, right? Think about it. As I talk about my child, think about your childhood. I want you to understand that you didn't end up a strong man, fellas. You ended up a man who literally cannot locate his own pain because you sealed the door, and you sealed it at such a young age that you don't even know it's sealed. Now as an adult. What we did was we turned it into survival, fellas. That's the real. We can't operate in life out of survival. It won't work. I'm telling you, it won't work. Because when you grow up thinking that you survive your childhood, and then we get handed a marriage and a couple of kids, what happens is your wife is going to ask you, why you won't open up to me? Your kid's going to ask your wife, why dad like that? Yeah, like he has no emotions. You're not going to even have a chance to communicate properly with your kids. You're not going to be able to communicate properly with your wife. And then eventually, let's be real, in human nature, when things don't go right, in most cases, humans that are with us, they're just going to begin to say, well, what is it about? What is it about me? Or the ultimate mistake, what can I do to make it better? Let me address that real quick. For the people who are asking their partners, what can you do to make it better? You can't do a damn thing. You can't do a damn thing because, like I told someone a few weeks ago, happiness is an inside job. Our happiness is an inside job. We are the only ones that are given the blueprint on how to make ourselves happy. Stop passing that responsibility off to others, because we'll never be satisfied until we realize that it's up to us. Soapbox. Insert it back under the bed for a second. Seriously. And I've got to be precise here because this can go a different direction real fast, right? It can go into women believing that men are emotionally broken. Now, I've said that over the past couple episodes. Just because I'm bringing something up, ladies, it doesn't mean that men or all men are emotionally broken or men are damaged. As I said in the first two episodes, and I'll say it in this one, that is a lazy ass way of thinking in assessing this situation. And more importantly, it's false. Because I'm here to tell you as a man that men aren't broken. Men aren't broken. Men were built this way and on purpose, and by a world that needed them disposable, that needed them to be able to march off to war, if we're being honest. Physical war, mental war, however you want to dress it up. This is how we were built. We were built to work that job that kills the body, to absorb pain and never complain about it. You see, this armor that I'm speaking of was useful to everybody around us. Everybody except the man wearing it and the people trying to be close to him. Have you ever looked at it from that perspective? Now is a great time to do it. Hear me out here. I want you to understand that that man didn't fail at being open. Like I said, he was systematically trained, in my opinion, systematically trained, shut, hammered shut, and at an early age. And like I said, and then handed a woman at 36 years of age, or 26, whenever we decide to get married, and then eventually mocked for being closed. I want you to know that's not a defect in him because he's closed. It's a setup, and it's the same setup that we named in the first episode about alphas. This time it's just pointed in a different way at a different target. Now let me give you a mirror here, gentlemen and ladies, for those who watch him. I don't want you to let yourself off the hook here, because I'm sure, and this is for the men who are sitting here going, nah, Shaun, nah, this dude tripping. I'm not about to be in touch with my feelings. Nah, hell nah, that ain't me. Okay, that ain't you. I want you to be careful, because like I said, that armor is very sneaky. It doesn't always look like the stone-faced silent guy. Now, let me give you some advice, ladies, when you're dealing with us as men. The armor just, here's the mirror. The armor just doesn't look one way. If you know anything about life, there's two sides to everything. Peep this one. Sometimes the armor looks like the man who was capable of talking about his feelings. Huh? Yeah. There are men out here capable of talking about their feelings, but they only talk about their feelings in a flat, analytical, narrated from one distance kind of way. Yeah. I mean, he'll tell you that he's sad. He'll diagnose it for you. I think I'm experiencing some grief around that. That's what it'll sound like. But in reality, he's describing the feeling from behind the glass. Now, what are you saying, Shaun? What I'm saying is he's not actually in the room with you. That's armored too. Like I said, intellectualizing the feelings is just a more sophisticated, more educated way to avoid actually feeling what you're supposed to be feeling. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, don't mistake vocabulary for vulnerability. Don't believe just because you can articulate yourself in a way to where you feel like you're expressing yourself, that it means that you're actually expressing yourself. Because eventually you're going to run out of vocabulary and you're going to hit a wall to where you really have to sit in that and you really have to find a way to process it. And you don't want to be looked upon as the dude that's been fake this entire time. That's why I say you have to be careful with this armor, right? Because underneath it all, every version of the armor, I mean, it's detrimental. It's, as I said last week, the last episode rather, this thing always narrowed down to one thing for men, whether they want to believe it or not. The whole reason we wear armor, the whole reason we never want to express ourselves, the whole reason we act the way we act when it comes to you guys. Talking men, talking about us as far as how we are in relationships and marriages and situations and friendships, or however you want to call it. What it comes down to is the fear of being seen, the real us, the uncertain, the unfinished, the doesn't have it all figured out. Yeah, we're afraid to show people that person. Now, both men and women are guilty of this, but for men, This is something that we silently suffer with on a daily, consistent basis. Being afraid to expose who we really are. Because as men, right, we have to always have it together. Our emotions have to always be in check. Our mental have to always be focused, right? That's what makes us a man, right? Wrong. It's okay to admit that you don't have it all figured out. It's okay to not be 100% mentally sharp at all times. I think sometimes we take the human out of this thing. I'm sorry, I pulled that soapbox out just real quick. But sometimes we take the human out of this thing. And one of the reasons we scared to even allow our woman to see this or to see us weak, right, is because we think as men that she'll lose respect for us. She'll leave. Shout out to all my dudes that got abandonment issues and don't want to address them. I'm laughing because I used to be one of them. But I've learned that if you have a real one and you just communicate the issues with her, you will see her ass ain't going nowhere. If she loves you like that, she ain't going nowhere, fellas. She's going to carry that burden with you. You don't believe me. I know some of you don't believe me. I can see it in your eyes. Metaphorically, you know what I'm saying? I can see it in your eyes. But I'm telling you, they exist. They exist, fellas. And we don't have to be afraid to show that side of us. They exist. And I know they exist because I once had that fear. I once went through that. So everything that I tell you from week to week or every other week or whenever we have a podcast episode, this is not concept stuff that I'm giving you. This is real personal shit. Seriously. This never let her see you weak was something I stood on. When it came to relationships, when it came to friendships, when it came to everything. Nobody can see my hand. Nobody can see my hand. And then I noticed something. With this particular attitude of not showing people my hand, I began to lose some real people around me. The relationships began to sour. People began to think I was fake because hiding situations lead people into assuming you're not being real, like you're not being honest. So then it goes from hiding to basically having to defend my integrity because they thinking one thing and I know the truth, but I'm not sharing the truth. That's why I'm trying to get you to understand that this is one of the biggest mistakes we make in our relationships, fellas. Not exposing ourselves to the real ones that's in our corner. Trying to hold the weight of that shit. We can't do that. And then here's where we make a mistake. When we do let it out, and we call ourselves letting it out to another homeboy, because that's exactly how it happens. We never really tell women or the women in our lives. We go tell our dumbass homeboys who has less experience probably than you concerning this situation, who probably ain't married, never been married, or never been in a real relationship, and we decide to take his advice and just ruin everything. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that a person that's not married or not in a relationship can't give sound advice. What I'm saying is you have to be able to decipher as a man what's beneficial to your situation and what's bullshit that's being put on your plate. And a lot of these guys that be giving us advice be giving us bullshit to put on the plate. Just theories that they are, to be honest, working in real time. Because one thing I notice about men and women, when something doesn't work out in their favor, they will concoct some bull crap, put it out to the masses, and tell you it's something that is not. But not here, this can get ugly because we going to break this down all the way. We're touching on everything. I wanted this specific arc to be for the fellas because I'm tired, fellas. I'm tired of seeing us lose in the way that we're losing. This bravado that we carrying around and calling ourselves men and, you know, grabbing our nuts and, you know, yeah, that's all good. But, man, it's just energy that doesn't accomplish anything. And I'm going to be real with you. We getting older, fellas. The shit getting wilder out here. We got to reel it in. At some point, maturity has to settle in. At some point, we got to start realizing that the people that are in our life and for our life are there for a reason. Got to start opening up. We got to start telling them, like, yeah, I'm a man, but I'm a man that has this going on. And I know that we don't want to pass that burden off to them, but guess what? They signed up for that when they wanted to get close to you. When a person signs up to be in your life, they're telling you that your burden becomes their burden. But we have to open up and trust them. Don't be me. Don't be the person that has lost great people. Now, I'm a person that believes that certain people come in your life for a season. Yeah, I'm one of those people. And you're supposed to learn something from them. I get it. But I still believe in my heart of hearts that I lost some good people. Now, I've been blessed enough to you know, refill the people around me with some more good people. But this time around, nah, my people gonna know what's going on with me. They gonna know what's going on. I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna let them know when I'm not comfortable. I'm gonna let them know when I can't figure this thing out. They gonna know. Because like I said, the people who are with you or choose to be in your corner, they signed up for this. I'm not talking about the fake individuals. I'm talking about the real people. And you smart enough to know who the real people are. And if you're not, then you need to stop hanging around fake ass people to the point where you can't decipher who real and who fake. Close your circle. As my boy once told me, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but he said, you like braces, don't you, to fix your teeth? Well, close the gap. I don't know what the hell that means, but I went with it. Because in reality, when it said it, it made sense, right? Close the gap. Close the gap. If you don't like your circle, close the gap. Pull the people in that's real closer to you and excuse the people that's fake out of it. Matter of fact, my friend had told me that to close the gap. I'm going to call him and ask him what he really, really meant. Because don't you hate when people call you and just drop some game on you, and then you have to figure out what the hell they talking about? But anyway, that's the real in this whole situation. But let's get to the actual work of this thing, because every week I present the problem. I tell you where I think it came from, but then I have to give you the actual work of what has to be done, so an actionable plan for you to get through this if you experiencing exactly what I'm talking about, right? So I know a lot of you are saying, Shaun, what do you actually want me to do with this? And I'm going to tell you, here's the work. Any work I give you going to always start with self-evaluation. I want you to know that. Self-evaluation. Every man has a code. Every man has a code. Inside the combination of my code is accountability. Might not be for every man, but it is for me. So I'm going to always want you to self-examine self before pointing the finger at something or somebody else. So the first test, and believe me, it's not open up to just everybody. That's not the goal here. And honestly, it's not even safe to open up to everybody. But here's the test. It's one question. Is there a single person alive? And I want you to ask yourself this. Is there a single person alive who has seen me actually weak and stayed? If the answer is no, there's your diet. There's your answer right there. There's your answer right there. It's not that you're broken. It's just this. The armor has never once been tested. So you've never gotten the evidence that you're lovable underneath this armor, right? You've been operating your whole life under the theory that if they don't see me, if they see the real me, they're going to leave. You've been operating under that theory. But if you haven't given anybody a chance to see you weak, to know the actual answer, then what have you been doing, right? Again, ask yourself that question around a safe person. Has this person actually seen me weak and then leave? Now, here's the practice. It's 4 things. Whether you do this every day, every week, I don't care how you do it, just do it. First thing, when somebody safe asks you, how are you? I don't want you to say the generic answer, oh, I'm good. I want you to be honest. I want you to say one thing that is true. I want you to say, if that person say, how are you doing? I want you to be like, honestly, I'm tired. If your ass is tired, I'm tired. Say that. Because here's the thing. You have to start at some point practicing locating one real feeling inside of you and getting it out of you in order for this thing to work. 2, I want you to catch yourself whenever you feel like you're armoring up in real time. Fellas, this is very important. I want you to catch yourself when you're feeling like you're armoring up in real time. When you feel the plate slam shut, I want you to just notice it. Because when you notice it, right, when you name the reflex that's triggering you to get into this armor and keep people off, you see, that's the first sign of going somewhere, right? You have to start there, and then you have to continuously do it. You have to get your reps in, as they say, because you have to exercise that muscle. In fact, exercising this one particular muscle is what the whole arc is about. Finding out what the internet has lied to us about being men and rewriting history. The third thing, let one person see one uncertainty, not a breakdown, just one admission that you don't have it all figured out. It probably would sound something like, I'm not honestly sure I'm handling this right. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit I don't know what I'm doing. And then I want you to, after you admit it, I want you to watch and see if something catastrophic happens. In your case, that catastrophic thing would be that person leaving, right? Or thinking something about you. And I'm here to tell you, to be honest, you've been bracing yourself for something that probably won't even happen in the way that you think it will happen. Because if you have real people around you, their first initial thing to do is to help. Duh. I don't mean it that way, but I'm just saying. Person that loves you, that's real, that's true, the first initial thing is to do is to help you. The third thing, and I'm getting close to wrapping this up. Well, the fourth thing, I'm sorry. At the end of the week, ask yourself, when I did all that, did being a little more reachable cost me respect, or did it pull someone actually close? I guarantee it's going to be the latter. And if it's not, call me. I mean, well, reach out, email, message me, whatever. We'll talk about it. I guarantee I can point it out that it's the latter. I guarantee. Just collect the evidence correctly and then, build from there. I guarantee if you do it all three, well, them 3 things, and then the 4th one, you'll be okay. So let me bring this entire thing home regarding this episode. The goal here was to never tell you to be soft, fellas. It was never to teach you how to cry on command. It was never to wear your wombs around like a costume for sympathy. That's not what this was about. That's just not what I'm trying to do here. The goal was to stop confusing the armor for yourself. To remember there's a whole man underneath there, a man who can be firm and tender, steady and open, and when the moment calls for it. Listen, you don't have to rip the armor off in front of everybody. I've said that. Do this around people who you trust, safe people. You don't have to become a different man overnight. You just have to let one person past it. And once you let that one person past it, you discover the thing nobody ever let you believe, that the man underneath was always already enough. Strong was never the armor. Strong is the courage to actually take it off. I told you this. I mean, to be honest, we spent 3 episodes now on the lies they sold you about being a man. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed giving it to you. Like I said, they sold us about being a man, just the lies, the costume, the wallet, the armor. On the next episode, we're gonna go a little deeper. We turn the whole lens around, because they didn't just lie to you about yourself. I believe they sold you a fake version of her as well, a cartoon. And if you fell for this, I'm here to tell you that you've been out here dating a drawing and losing out on the real ones. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, bring your ass here on the next episode and we're going to talk about it. Again, I hope you enjoyed everything that I brought to you tonight. I hope that you understand why I wanted to expose this lie, fellas, about how showing yourself to your lady or the people that love you is not weak. In fact, it's commendable. It's required. And you just should do it. I salute you. Thank you for tuning in tonight.